The rain hammered down relentlessly over Detroit, each icy drop smashing against the cracked basement window like a cold reminder of everything falling apart. In that dim, suffocating light, the words offered no comfort, just a creeping dread swallowing her whole. Her light brown hair stuck damp to her cheeks from the walk home, and her gray eyes, heavy with sleepless nights, stared blankly at the paper. Just a week ago, she'd been fired from her waitress job, her third in 6 months. The manager didn't even look her in the eye. "You're too slow. We need quick thinkers." Those words cut through her like a knife. But honestly, she'd heard it all her life. Not good enough. Orphaned at 8, Hannah had bounced from foster home to foster home. Every place drilled one lesson into her: be grateful. Don't expect too much. But gratitude didn't fill the hollow ache inside her. It didn't replace the yearning to belong, to be loved without conditions. Sitting there in her damp, cold apartment, no lights, no money, no one, she couldn't help but wonder. Maybe they were right. Maybe she really didn't deserve better. The glow of a street lamp spilled through the fogged window, making the room feel even colder, lonelier. Hannah's fingers trembled as she gripped the eviction notice, but her mind slipped away, back into the shadows of a childhood she rarely allowed herself to visit. She barely remembered her birth parents. They died in a car crash when she was 8. One night, she slept in her warm bed. The next morning, she woke up on a cold iron cot at an orphanage outside Detroit. No visitors. No one called her name with affection. The orphanage wasn't cruel, just tired, understaffed. "You'll help with the chores. It's how we teach gratitude." That's when young Hannah realized. She wasn't a daughter. She was free help. 3 more families followed, each with promises that faded into "she just doesn't fit." At some point, Hannah stopped hoping. She learned to live in hallways that weren't hers, eyes sharp to adult moods. Heart braced for the next goodbye. Nobody called her sweetheart beyond 3 months. Nothing she owned lasted long. Every toy, every dress, every glimpse of safety could vanish overnight. Now at 30, the sudden ring of her phone cut through the silence. It was Monica, her only true friend, a warm-spirited Puerto Rican who worked as a live-in housekeeper for a wealthy family in Telluride, Colorado. "Hey, hun, got news," Monica chirped, full of energy. "Guy next door needs someone to housekeep and watch his baby. Good pay, room and board. Just gotta clean and not freak when the baby cries. Think it's a great shot for you." Hannah frowned. "I've never done housekeeping, and I dreamed of being a fashion designer." The dad's a single guy, a bit cold, but not bad. Hannah sat on the edge of her bed for nearly an hour after the call. The room so quiet she could hear the clock ticking like a hammer, pounding the urgency of her situation. Outside, the rain kept falling. Monica's offer wasn't the dream Hannah once held close. But reality didn't follow storybook plots. Her fridge was empty except for a nearly expired carton of milk, and her purse had a hole in the bottom. She looked around the room, peeling paint, floorboards that sagged, a table lamp propped up by old paperbacks. She had once called this place home, but it never felt like one. Her eyes landed on a wooden box under the bed. She pulled it out. Inside were scissors, thread, a worn pincushion, a few fabric scraps, the sewing kit she'd kept since she was 15. At the orphanage, she patched clothes for younger kids. In foster homes, she secretly fixed hems and bags, small acts that made her feel useful. She had dreamed once, a tiny studio where she designed dresses for women who, like her, felt invisible. But real life had folded that dream away like a scrap of unused cloth. Finally, she sighed. "Send me the address. I'll give it a shot." She wheeled her suitcase to the door. Before switching off the light for the last time, Hannah looked back at the empty room. No regret, just a quiet tightening in her chest. She didn't know what lay ahead, only that she couldn't stay here. And maybe, just maybe, small steps could open whole new paths. The final bus curved along a snowy road lined with towering pines. The dull gray sky matched her mood as she shivered. Looking out the window, Telluride felt like a different world, quiet, pristine, distant. When the bus stopped at a tall iron gate, she stepped off and wheeled her suitcase along a stone path toward the mansion. Gray slate roof, aged stone walls, tall windows draped with burgundy curtains. It looked more like a winter painting than a home. The heavy wooden door creaked open. A woman in her early 50s, hair neatly pinned, posture upright, greeted her. "You must be Hannah. I'm Mrs. Langford, the housekeeper here. Mr. Whitmore is busy with the baby. I'll show you to your room." Inside, the mansion was grander than she imagined. High ceilings, polished wood floors, abstract art, bookshelves stretching to the ceiling. Yet despite the luxury, the house felt empty. Swallowed by thick silence, Mrs. Langford led her to a small room upstairs overlooking the pines. "Your off hours are after 8. You may use the side kitchen and laundry. Very successful, very private." Mrs. Langford hesitated. He dislikes noise. No one enters his study or library without permission. Before Hannah could ask more. Then he turned and left. The baby blinked at her curiously, clutching his shirt. Then they vanished behind a door. Hannah stood still, feeling as if she'd stepped into a house without laughter, without warmth, just wind against glass and footsteps that never lingered. That night, wind howled through the pine trees outside, sneaking in through cracks in old wooden frames. Hannah folded a blanket in the living room when Mrs. Langford appeared, face troubled. "The nanny came down with a fever. Called off last minute. I have to take my sister to the hospital. Could you look after Sophie tonight?" Hannah hesitated, then nodded. "Of course. Mr. Whitmore just left for the airport. Won't be back until late." An hour later, Sophie began to cry, soft whimpers turning into sharp sobs. Hannah tried everything. Fresh diaper, warm bottle, showing her the snow outside. Nothing worked. Finally, she picked the baby up and sat by the fireplace, gently rocking her. "There, sweetheart. It's okay. I know this feeling. I used to cry like this too alone. No one came." Her voice was low, warm, tinged with memory. Slowly, Sophie calmed. Hannah hummed a lullaby from the orphanage. Didn't know the words, just the rhythm. Soft, safe. Sophie's eyes grew heavy, her breathing slowed. Afraid to move, Hannah held her close. Eventually, she shifted, laying Sophie gently on her chest, pulling a light blanket over them both. In that fragile warmth, Hannah drifted into sleep. When Caleb returned near 11, snow still clinging to his coat, he kicked off his shoes and moved quietly through the living room. His usual routine before heading upstairs. Then he stopped. One tiny hand curled into her shirt like she never wanted to let go. Caleb didn't move. He stood frozen, not from shock, but from something far older, a longing buried long ago. It wasn't just tenderness or warmth. It was the ache of knowing what home could have felt like, realizing how long he'd gone without it. Used to quiet nights filled only with his footsteps echoing through the halls, the scene before him shattered something inside. Hannah wasn't just watching Sophie. Caleb couldn't remember the last time anyone had held his daughter like that. Not out of duty, not because they were paid, but because they truly cared. His throat tightened. The sudden rush of feeling caught him off guard, a softness he hadn't allowed himself in years. In that moment, there were no deadlines, no meetings, no roles, just the image of a woman. No blood relation, holding his child with all the quiet love of a mother.